so I don't.
All right, Chris, are you with us?
The holiday.
Just wait for Chris to unmute and then we can start.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now,
Okay.
Mr. Horizon.
I moved to another setup in the house and
Oh, wow.
nothing was, wires are backwards and audio wasn't working.
It happens to us. All right. So I'm gonna get started. I texted Pat, I haven't heard back from him. And I think Dave is probably at the capital planning meeting.
He knows we have Pat knows we have a meeting. I saw him the other day, but he's been having he's still having email issues with a town email.
Oh, has he tried to stop there?
Multiple times. He's been in touch with them a few times to try and get it fixed or whatever.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you know if he knows we had a meeting tonight?
I saw him on Saturday. Told him we did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see if he can join us. All right. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted over Lunenburg Public Channel, and it will be uploaded to Lunenburg Access YouTube channel at a later date. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. The votes may be taken as a result of those discussions. Not all items listed in fact may be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent of permitted by open meeting law. And with that, I would like to do a roll call. Karen?
Here.
Chris?
Here.
All right, and Anna Lockwood's here. Okay, proof of minutes. Chris, did you have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
I think I was okay with those.
Okay. I was too. Karen, do you want to make a motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from November 2022.
Okay, Chris, can I have a second? Right, and all right, roll call. Karen?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. Okay. Town manager update. I talked with Heather. We went over the list that Paul had sent last month. And she's pretty much on top of all the items. The fall cleaning was done on the parks this last week. That has been completed, and Dawn Gagne has checked to make sure that the work was done. And I don't know if you heard, Chris, but there was some vandalism that happened at Paul Field a couple nights ago.
There was what again?
Basically someone did a donuts at the Powell Field at Marshall.
In the field?
Yep, I can actually bring up
I guess there is a wide enough gate.
Yeah,
The crazy part is they had to have opened the gate.
Oh yeah, it definitely took time to get out of the car and open the, unless it
Yeah.
was left open or something, but
I mean, I added the pictures of the damage to our meeting folder.
I'll take a look. I haven't had a chance to open. I'm
Maybe-
just opening the folder.
Maybe I'll share it just so that it is. Karen, can you allow me to share?
Yep.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
And I'm doing this in case we have people from the public that may see it. That's Paul Field.
Picture makes
and
Powell Field look really big.
It is pretty big. It's the majors.
I guess it is a pretty big field. It just makes it look bigger than I feel like it is in my mind.
Yeah. And the damage is pretty extensive.
Yeah, there's some tracks there for sure, because the ground really isn't fully frozen.
No, it's not. And actually the next picture they show, these photos came from Little League. So
How deep.
yeah, so it's actually a pretty wet field as it is,
Yeah.
because it's on the lower end and probably was wet. So, so I've been in communication with Little League. Here you can see how, it
Oh
looks
yeah,
to be a pretty
that's some
big-
depth.
Yeah,
That's a couple inches anyway.
you know, it looks to be a big car. It doesn't look to be a small car.
No, I don't think. I might guess some sort of truck.
Like, yeah, which is, but
I like your umbrellas.
so I already been in contact with Heather. She was there today. I believe there's probably a police report that got filed, and she asked me when Little League usually starts. She's going to look into maybe possibly filing an insurance claim. She will need to, I don't know what our deductible is, but we're gonna work on trying to get a quote right away so she can make that decision and maybe.
You said you talked to Little League?
I was at the Little League yesterday. Yep.
Is somebody from Little League reaching out to Steve Powell?
I don't know.
So the damage, although it's deep, they didn't hit any of the water lines, right? Do we have sprinkler out there?
I don't know if we have a sprinkler. I would think that we do.
It's not a super difficult fix. And I have a feeling that if maybe Steve Powell or Dan Proctor, or one of those guys finds out about it, that they may be willing to step up and with some of their equipment and get it smoothed back out when the ground's not frozen.
Well,
It's gonna be the grass. It's gonna be the grass. It's gonna be the holdup and getting that reseeded.
Right. And we probably can't we're so late in the season that can't probably
Yeah, it
not
can't-
be done until,
Now, it could probably be seeded now, but it won't grow until the spring.
it's not good. So that's the, the update to, from the town manager. Yeah, that's it. So any questions on those topics? There are other things that will come up that came from the town manager, but if anybody has any questions.
Just disappointing.
This is, yeah, I don't think.
And
I'm
that
allowed
wasn't
to
what-
curse.
What gets me even more on some of the stuff, it wasn't an accident. It was just straight out vandalism, and it's frustrating because they knew that those fields don't get a lot of action in the evening. So they probably knew nobody was going down there to catch them. And, to have opened the gate and driven out there, I mean, it's disappointing.
It
Extremely.
isn't, and if they're looking to do donuts, like the parking lot up on the top, it's probably the same space. Like
Not as
they would have
fun
got
though.
their
You're not on
donuts and
grass.
they would say it again.
Not as fun. You're not on grass tearing it up.
Right, that must be it. Like, I think the fun would be to do the donuts, but apparently it's to destroy, and it's just,
I've seen tracks there in the winter. So like in that parking lot, for sure, when there's snow, like if
Right.
you go in there, you can see, tracks in the hello puppies. The dogs are jumping at me. You can see tracks, in the snow in the parking lot in the wintertime.
right.
I just
is that-
asked, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just asked one of the high school kids that I know if he's heard any talk of anybody driving out on the fields. And he said, no, he hadn't, but he was willing to come up with a list of everybody who drives trucks at school. I'm like, no, we don't need you to be the investigator on this, but it was pretty funny.
That begs the question, I guess, like, do we, and certainly something to keep on the list going forward of cameras in the park, or, you know, do we want something like that to, you know, going down that path? So now we've had vandalism and now this. So is that something we want to maybe
Right.
start to take a look at?
The most, I'll be interested in knowing if the police actually in Lunenburg has any cameras, because it would be interesting to, put one that's connected with the police. So when something like this is happening, they catch the perpetrators on the act. And, it will avoid this altogether. I know some towns tend to have cameras in some public areas. There are high traffic. So that might be also worth maybe investigating. Because this is just, there you go, I said it. I've been trying to not say it, but I said it.
I'm happy to send an email to the police chief or whatever.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Just ask
You know,
him if there is,
Say, hey, does he have any advice, or does he have access to things like that? Or,
yeah,
just this is 2 instances now.
yeah.
Um,
And if they have feed, if they already have a setting, because they would need to have the setting of receiving the feed. There might be a grant out there for public safety that we might be able to, apply for as we go, looking into more grants for Marshall.
yeah, I think it's certainly something we're going to want to look at with
Yeah.
new stuff going
Like,
on there.
oh yeah. Gosh. Anyway, okay. So I don't have any updates, and that's why I didn't put on the agenda, because I put everything that I had to update on the agenda. So Heather received several quotes for the repair of the Town Beach house. And the quotes vary from, I believe, $32,000 or $36,000 to $72,000. And she was talking with me about she would like to use some of the revolving fund for that repair. I think right now we have about $70,000 on that fund. Most of the revenue that landed there did come from the Town Beach. That's where all our fees go for programs, and that's where the fees go that we receive from Town Beach. And she would like, and her plan is to get that going right away, because that's a work that can be done in the winter. So she was happy with the quote, the $30,000 quote, and that's what she'd like to receive. There was talk from about money that was left over from last year, but the total on that was about $7,000. And because the time has lapsed so much, and this is a different IFB than it was before, she can't really apply last year's fund to this new project that the IFB just went out this year. So she's going to look into update using that fund. She asked to, she wanted to touch base with us, and she asked to have our support. I think that's a pretty good use of the money that is a park. But I also mentioned that, it'd be good as we get towards the end of this fiscal year to make sure we don't have leftover money on park that then goes to the general fund, because we have, one of the reasons we have landed in the situation we are with the facilities, with the parks facilities, because we never do any upkeep. So we'll be in touch. We'll keep talking about them, what's on the budget, left over the budget, and try to think how can we apply that towards parks, so that truly at the end of the year, there's nothing left on the parks fund that came from the general. Any comments on that?
I do.
Spend what
ahead.
we have.
What's that, Chris?
Spend what we have.
Right.
I agree. I guess I really want a commitment from town manager that these buildings, as we're putting money into it, are going to be maintained the way that they should be. And I mean, I guess I know in the grand scheme, it can't be there's no absolute guarantee, but at the same time, knowing what I know and knowing how much money was not utilized that were in our accounts, turned back to, in some cases, it went over to pavement management. It's extremely frustrating and disappointing that we find ourselves in this situation, because there's that $70,000 that's in that account could have, could certainly be used for other upgrades at the town beach if the building had been maintained the way it should have been maintained. And if the issues that were brought to the attention of our town employees regarding that building, including that wall, which is what started this whole thing, it would have been done at a time that the cost wouldn't have been as high, because it would have been pre-COVID. So, I mean, I guess it's fine. I have no problem with it. I mean, it's money that's there to be used for things like this, but at the same time, I want to make it very clear to her that how we ended up in this position cannot happen again, because it's not, we should not have let our buildings fall apart like this.
Right. Yeah, and I think, she is, we never had a facilities director, which now we do, although the position is currently open. And, I do find that working with Heather, she is responsive. It's a lot to take care of it. But when people work with her, she engages back so much that, we're already looking into how to get a quote for the damage that happened 2 days ago and to get that going. So I think us as a commission, we get to be stewards of our parks and make sure that, comes the spring, I think in April, we should ask for what are their charges on the account for, because we have two accounts, two line item budgets. We have the fund, and then we have a salary, and then there's another line item. It's kind of split evenly. And we got to ask for that number, and then we got to go back to the town and work with them to get that going. So, and as far as my experience has been, everything that we have brought to Heather, she has been attentive and cared for it so much that we just got $200,000, almost $200,000 for engineering. There are two major capital plan projects coming in. So I know I look forward and I feel hopeful. How's that?
No, that's fine. I just, and it's not, I don't mean to necessarily be pointing fingers. It's just, it shouldn't have to take squeaking of the wheel to get action on stuff like this. And that's how the ball got rolling with getting this front wall looked at, was it literally squeaking the wheel and constantly saying something. And, if it hadn't been for me going through that building back in the spring, they would have kept on moving as if there had been no asbestos in there. And, when the town, for whatever reason, decided to put parks under the umbrella of the DPW and made the DPW responsible for the facilities that fell under parks. And I don't care who was doing it, it didn't get done, or who was supposed to do it, it didn't get done. And that's not something that I take lightly. And I don't think it's anything the town should take lightly, especially as we're looking at a multi-million-dollar project over at Marshall Park. I think that, I don't want to look back either, but at the same time, I can't, I think it would be, it's not doing us any favors to not look back and make sure that the mistakes of the past are not made again moving forward. Because we could end up with a Parks Commission that maybe, isn't as in tune to some of that stuff. We could have, our facilities director position, I hope we get it filled, but it could stay vacant for a while, or it could jump around for a while. And, maybe 5, 6, 7 years down the road, if we go through budget issues again and, maybe we end up under the DPW again. I just want to make sure that the facilities are understood by the administration of the town, that they are a priority. Because little things would have saved us a lot of money in the grand scheme.
Right. And like I want us to focus forward, and I think everything you said, she has heard from us, and she has heard from me. But the asbestos is a good example of things being, I don't think it took a lot of squeaking in the wheel. I think you mentioned, and she got, the town got someone there to test it. Those tests was conducted.
That wasn't the squeaking of the wheel, but Anna, and you can all welcome to disagree with me all you want. It shouldn't have taken me to walk in that building and have red flags raised that there could be asbestos in there. There was way too much there. In my opinion, there is no contractor that should have gone in there and said, sure, I can do the work, without inspecting to find out if there was asbestos in there. And that fell on a previous DPW director that, I don't want to say should have known better, because I don't know the full background of this person, but when you're going in and demolishing, or in this, I guess it was demolishing of the front wall of it and pulling stuff out in a building that the date of build, it should not have taken a resident with I don't have a ton of background knowledge in some of this stuff. I have little bits and pieces, and again, it's just,
I thought you were a civil engineer by association with your son.
no, I'm a civil engineer by association in my own brain, because I'm the daughter of a contractor. So, it's just, I don't know. I just
think
want to
we
make
need
sure
Yes.
we're,
By the way, I didn't disagree with you. I did not disagree with you. What I said was, let's look forward to it. And I do feel hopeful that things are moving in the right direction. And I think ultimately us as the park commissioners, as the body that have the care and control of parks, we ultimately, are responsible, whoever comes to this board, to this commission, are responsible for making sure that, these things are happening. So I think, so that's all I said. I didn't disagree with you.
No,
I'm
that's
just
fine.
saying-
That's fine.
I'm just saying, let's look forward to it. Let's keep, a working relationship, and we all acknowledge what has happened in the past. And we all say we don't want this to happen again. And everybody seems to be on board. And so far I have only seen that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just
what has-
laying the groundwork and making sure we continue that understanding. I think, to
Right.
Karen's point, there's a board right now that is paying close attention, but it obviously hasn't in the past. And
Right.
and
I think,
it's on a grander scale. I mean, this is the new high school, right? I mean, like we let an old high school go to a point that, there were holes in the ceiling and asbestos everywhere, and we needed to build a new high school. So
Right.
let's make sure on a smaller scale we're taking care of the things that we have, so we don't need to build, and take things to a
Right.
greater scale.
No, that's agreed. Okay, so that's good. All right. The next item on the agenda is Marshall Park survey. And I realized after I posted this, Chris, I was really thinking about your survey, the engineering survey, not the survey that Greg Roy is doing, but which I think
Yeah.
it's happening now. What's the status? Have we received good responses, or?
We get 95 responses. Not as much as the initial sort of surveys that we've done, obviously, about a quarter of the response. Interesting. And if you want to, I have the survey open if you want to.
Yeah, Karen.
Scroll if you want to share.
Yeah, Karen, can you
Share screen.
do you allow everybody to share, or just me?
Mhm.
Go ahead, Chris, share.
Grab which screen I want, that one. Share. That there now? Can you see that?
Mhm.
Okay. Get my mouse where it needs to go. So yeah, 95 95 responses right now. Everybody from Lunenburg, pretty spread out age demographic. You know, the biggest responses being in the 26 to 65 range. This was interesting to me as we're looking at this. More than half of the people that have done the survey have said they haven't seen the selected master plan before opening the survey. So just interesting. I
Well,
don't
you
know
know,
what to
it's-
make of that. I don't know that we could have put things out there more than we have.
Well, what I
Um,
like about this, Chris, is that we are getting different perspectives.
Yeah, getting new people for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. There's still responses in here of, you know, leave it the way it is, and everything's fine, and you know, a lot of compliments as to the work that's being done in here, and appreciative of the work that's been put in so far. You know, there's a mix. I think everyone has kind of the view, the ability to view and see all the comments and so forth. One of the things that was interesting to me was related to the phase 2 section. And one of the things, I guess in a general sense, one of the things I could say was a description perhaps of, and I thought we kind of said that, but maybe not. But so there's opinions of when we do what phase, and there's definitely in a literal sense, people are looking at like phase 1 must be the first phase and phase 2 is the second phase and so forth. And so just from anyone that's coming back to look at this meeting and so forth tonight, the phase numbers aren't necessarily chronological. It's going to be at, you know, various times and so forth. But so the phases aren't chronological, but there was an assumption by some in taking the survey that they were. So there was that piece. This piece was interesting to me. There was a comment, you know, open this up. It was pointed out a facility in
Malden, I know it well.
Walden, yeah. As the, you know, this person's recognizing the need for soccer fields. You know, have we considered using the outfield for that purpose? Lining it that way. Malden just put in, and the way they did this is a, I'm assuming that's switched over. They have a turf baseball field that they put in, which obviously there's pluses and negatives to that. I saw my first turf baseball field kind of live and in person last summer up in Maine at my reunion, and it was kind of interesting. The entire field was turf, including the infield, quote unquote, dirt and so forth. So it does allow for earlier playing, and you can plow a field, you can, you know, things like that. But it was interesting to see if indeed it's a full size outfield, seeing that you could take a turf, you know, 90-foot
Right.
ball field, and put a soccer field on it.
Right.
You know, again, we know turf costs more money and so forth and whatnot. But it was an interesting sort of deal that I hadn't actually seen this thing in Malden before, so I interesting, something I think we can keep on our radar. Certainly
Now,
does
this
add some
just
value.
work with turf? Or,
Say that again, Anna.
will this design only work if there's turf?
So what happens at this location is it's almost a seamless transition going from the what looks like dirt onto the turf. It allows for a better transition onto the turf. You could certainly do it on a regular grass field. It's a little bumpier over in that section. And for years, Lysa had utilized a field that had a baseball diamond on it over at the Camp Low in Lancaster. So a piece of the field was actually on the dirt of the diamond. the, you know, and this is why I mean, I think I had said it all along, is that being able to put a field out on that outfield would be beneficial. But at the same time, so that's a full size field that's right there. So that would be like high school playing level field. So like what's on the inside of the turf, the soccer field markings on the inside of the turf at the high school, that's similar to size of this. That outfield could certainly be used for, if it was in good condition, it could certainly be used for a U12 field, which is typically smaller. It definitely can be used for a U10 field. So there's options, even if we don't put in turf, to be able to put in a grass field, smaller grass fields. And it's not the 90-foot diamond anymore that I'm thinking about. I mean, yes, it would be nice to have something like that, that option, but that diamond gets used between the Phillies, the high school program. They're not used, that 90-foot's not used as much in the fall, but in the, it is in the spring, whereas the softball field typically is only used for just the spring season, leaving open the summer and the fall. So we could even look at putting in a small soccer field on the outfield of the softball field.
Yeah.
So I think I think there'll be some options, but I don't think it's the best option, but it certainly is an option.
Yeah, if we can maximize what we're doing there, and if there's an option to add something like that, it's an interesting sort of thing to kind of keep on our radar. In particular, if our, and obviously, yeah, there's certainly a significant amount of use in the spring on the 90-foot field, and through the summer and into the fall and so forth. But from a scheduling standpoint and so forth, it would obviously require some navigation and things of that standpoint. But I think something like that there would really only be realistic if it was a turf field, and I guess it's somewhat depending on what you would be putting down on an infield surface too, because right now it's stone dust, and that's not pleasant to slide on
The ball.
in shorts.
Yeah. Ooh,
Probably doesn't feel great in baseball pants either, but
yeah.
anyway, so it was just something that one of the comments that I saw that was interesting
Yeah.
to me. So it's still open.
Yeah,
we'll just
so-
leave the survey open,
Yeah,
kind of
so-
let it run.
Yeah, I'm going to, so I know you shared public, and I mean, this is really good responses. I am going to do a push to get more responses with the mailing list from for MyRac. So we might get another big push there. And the town was trying to, I haven't done that yet because the town was trying to get responses for the age friendly. And that was, they're closing that survey. Tomorrow is the meeting, Karen, if you want to put that in a reminder. Tomorrow
You want me to put the 4 o'clock meeting tomorrow in a reminder?
for yourself, yeah. So
Oh, okay. Yes, I know. I have a meeting tomorrow. It's actually in my calendar already.
oh, wow.
Not a matter of it's not always a matter of putting a reminder out there, but it is a matter of me actually remembering to look at my phone and reminding myself. Because Chris, those pictures from Powell Field, there was a question on what field it was because the gentleman from the town who went over to look was calling it the lower field, and I wasn't quite sure what he was referring to. Anna was convinced it was the 90-foot diamond. So I said to her, I'll run over after this meeting because I went to select board last night. I'll run over after this meeting. And then I got home and Anna's like, which field was it? I'm like, I have no idea because I forgot to go. Like,
I'm not sure.
it's
It
terrible.
was like within a 10-minute window.
Yeah,
that she
it's
forgot.
awful. It's awful.
So,
And she asked me all kinds of questions, basically wondering if I was losing my mind. And I'm like, yeah, totally am. So anyway.
so I'm hoping we'll get another push, Chris. And I'll try to also, so I'm thinking probably in the beginning of the year, just because people are so busy now. And And I'll check with Heather if we can also do a little ad on the ledger with a QR code. So I'm hoping we'll get it, we'll be able to, at least double that, the number of responses that we have.
Nice.
So,
So yeah, that's the, I'll continue to kind of read through all this and so forth and keep an eye, but it's good data for, next phases.
definitely. And
Or ahead.
yeah. Yes. And
Like
in
you said,
Little
good-
League,
I didn't think about that perspective of reaching new people. I
right,
just was like, man, people are under a rock.
right.
But
But
yeah,
I
no,
like it.
to your point,
I like it
where yeah, it's people that,
because you're getting different
weren't
perspectives.
otherwise aware. So,
Yeah. In the Little League, I sent them the link as well. They said they would share with their email list.
for everyone.
So-
The AD had shared it with coaches and so forth as well.
Do you know if they sent it to the school? They added to the school emails to the
She
parents?
did send it out for me.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. That's
Yeah,
good.
it went to the school list. Yeah, the
Okay.
superintendent sent that out. So,
Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate
no
it.
worries. And I joined on video, but as you can see, I'm blank. It doesn't. I don't know what's going on with my computer camera. Usually I'm hooked up to an extended camera. And I didn't bring that home from the office today, but so
Yeah.
I'm a ghost.
No, that's okay. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is Veterans Memorial Park benches. Chris, did you have any update from the Scouts group?
I did not get. I did send another email last week, and I have not seen an update from
Okay.
Scouts. So I
So-
will see one of the guys that I emailed. I possibly would see this weekend at basketball. So I will. Of course, I did see him once after sending the meeting, and he was going to follow up with the Scoutmaster.
Okay,
And so I did send a reminder kind of last week, just kind of, hey, I'm following up on this kind of stuff and other scouts that need service projects and so forth. And there's a chance that it could be more involved, but the sign still needs some, some staining and things like that. So
Right.
we'll.
so Heather reached out to, on the same vein, Heather reached out to Massachusetts, not the vacational school, and to ask if this could be a project that they could do. And their feedback was that the wood there is actually not in bad shape for the benches. It needs refinishing. And his feedback is, if possible, replace it with composite, because they have not seen any kind of stain or finish that will actually last. So I'm going to try to get a quote on what would be the cost for replacing the wood itself with composite, and hopefully we'll see if that's something that can be done, because someone has benches memorialized for their families offer to assist with some of the financials. So we have, I think, 6 benches. If we can get 2 done, maybe, doing the cost of doing 4, it's gonna be doable. I'm gonna keep it on our list until we, get somewhere, because it would be nice to have that park and the benches, everything ready for Memorial Day for next year. All right, any other comments about this?
Nope.
No.
The next item on the agenda is the new McNally Park sign was installed. And we need to, I'm gonna share my screen again. And so that's one side, one of the pictures, and the one is this. So, there we go. So I
Still wish
think,
there was an established date there somewhere. Or-
yeah, we
Did we know
gave
that? Yeah, I feel the question from someone through Facebook. Did we know they were tearing all the shrubs out when they put the new sign in?
No, we were not notified of that.
Because all the shrubs are gone.
Yeah, I don't recall. So that might have been intentional to avoid the vandalism. I don't know
Yeah,
if-
the comment was made, the shrubs have been there forever. And they, in the same vein, they expressed a concern about the building still being there too. And they said it's something that's on our to-do list and so forth here. It just takes time for someone to
Yeah,
drive a backhoe into it and knock it over.
yeah, I'll check with Heather about where she's at with that. Paul had said that was going to be done, in the month of December, so.
That would just, they expressed a concern because the shrubs, I guess, have been there for a lot of years and now it's,
Yeah,
Who put the sign in, Anna?
Ben Lincoln.
I
Well,
get- but so the town didn't install it, right?
I don't believe so. The town might have assisted with a thing or two regarding installation, but I don't think it was the request. The conversations that I had with Ben Lincoln, he was leading the effort to install it. He had got the dig safe permit. And so if the town helped with something, they helped him.
Yeah,
and
no,
something else.
it's fine. I wanted just to make sure that, as Chris was saying, somebody had a concern that the shrubs were pulled out. I was curious whether it was somebody on the town side that pulled them because we did the install, or whether it was somebody from the group that did it. I can't remember exactly how the sign was up before, but my other thought is, was it, were the shrubs in the way for digging of these holes, to put the new posts in? And this is a group that's worked down there I shouldn't say multiple times, they do the primary work down there when it comes to stuff like this. So, if they remove them, there had to have been a good reason for them to be removed. I don't think they would have just torn them out just because
Right,
that would have been more work on their part.
yeah. So, all right,
I
so
like
we
the new
need,
sign though. So I'll make a motion to accept the new sign at McNally Park as a gift to the town of Lunenburg.
okay, I'll second that. Let's do a roll call. Karen,
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I for myself. So,
Can we look up
Karen-
sprucing that area in the springtime with some? If we
Yeah, it'll
have some,
be-
if we have some funds available, can we look at, I don't know, sprucing that up with some edging and wood chips or
yeah, I'll ask,
greenery or, I don't know how that all works.
Ben
At least
Lincoln.
make it somewhat,
Yeah,
know,
pretty, and even some flowers
prettier.
there.
something. Maybe the garden club would, want some edging and stuff on it, maybe the garden club would do something. I don't know.
I'm going to ask Dan Lincoln if they have any plans, because it could be that they have a plan regarding that
Okay,
before we duplicate
Sure, yeah.
efforts. So I'll send him an email regarding that. Karen, you being the clerk of the commission, do you want to send this information to the select board to official, because I think they have to also officially.
And I'm gonna do it
accept
right now before I forget.
That would be. But are you gonna be able to participate on the conversation still?
I've already sent the minutes over to the town clerk. I think I can handle both.
Nice. That's
just to
good.
play, so what would have happened if we voted not to accept the sign? Just from an odd question, since it's already there.
Well,
So-
we did talk beforehand.
I no, no, I
before.
get that. No, that's what I'm saying. I feel like we already kind of made that decision. It was just an interesting kind of,
So the
Vote in
hard
my
part
mind.
is, it's I don't know if we can accept a gift that's not actually there yet. Do you know what I mean?
But what happens if we decided we didn't want to?
I don't know.
We'll email them and ask them to remove
Take
it.
your, yeah, it's kind of just a random thought.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
that's all.
we're not going down that road, Chris. You're
Yeah.
banned.
No, it was just a, like a, just a,
Yeah, okay. All right, so Chris is a little creative today. All right, so next item on the agenda is Little League update. So yes, yesterday I joined the Little League board meeting. They have a new board. I think I don't think there are too many repeats from the previous board. I think most people there are new to the board. They are very enthusiastic about, getting the program up, stronger again, like it used to be. We talked about what can we do together. And, we talked about probably trying to coordinate some work, maybe try to do a spring cleanup that would involve, kind of we did with the town a couple years ago, and maybe do a big push in Marshall. And they were excited about that. We also talked about maybe creating a punch list, kind of like we did, Chris, with Veterans Park. That then the town can go in and assess and take care of some major items for the field. We also talk about how, as much as we want, the town just does not have the money to make everything perfect, and we need to count on volunteers. So, and they understand that. It was a very good and positive meeting overall. Of course, I had to give them the bad news about Marshall, about the Paul Field, which, I was at the meeting when Karen texted me that she thought it was Paul. So, I'm very much looking forward to working with them. And I think we can do a lot. I'm excited about the projects that we have, because they're all, in ballparks. And as we make our parks better, the Little League is going to be the one benefiting the most, because they're the most active group on our parks right now. So I don't know. It was very good, and I'm happy about it, and hopefully we'll continue in this positive track of just working together and getting things done together. Any questions about that? About the meeting? No? Yes.
Thank you for going. No, sorry I couldn't get there last night. I didn't get home until 7 o'clock, and then quick dinner before basketball practice.
I know. Wait, you are going to school?
No, I didn't. I went to work, and then I had
Oh,
basketball,
okay.
and then I had basketball practice
Oh, okay.
down at
Okay.
Turkey Hill.
All right.
No, I don't have time to go to school. Are you kidding?
I know. I'm like, what? You have 2 kids.
Coaching 3 teams.
All right. Okay. So, all right. Next item on the agenda. See, all my chair updates are. I decided to just list them here. Capital plan request update. So, I looked at their meeting last that they had last, and both of our capital plan requests are there. They're kind of falling more or less in the middle of the pack. It was about 18 and 13. Some people had rated them as 13, and the lower the number, the better in this case. And so I'm hopeful that both projects will get funded this time around. And one thing that I talked with Heather was that the capital plan request for the weeds at Lake Whalum right now is listed as Lake Whalum, but the breakdown that Paul provided, because he was the one who got the quotes, actually has some starting work for the Marshall Pond as well. So she was going to see maybe changing the title of that capital project plan to say Lake Whalum and Marshall Park and Marshall Pond, because the breakdown that Paul had some initial work with Marshall. But I also talked with her to see how if there's, as we move forward and now that we have the quotes and we have a company that we're working, is there anything we can do before the next season starts? And I even, yeah, so I even talked with her. I said, we want to get the beach house ready, but the weeds are almost more, just as important, if not more, than the beach house. So she said, let's finish the phase of the capital planning and let's look at the quotes again. Hopefully we'll get a new facility director here. We can investigate and see if there's anything we can do prior to starting next. Do something with the weeds. So I like that. But we're still on the run with the capital plan request. Two there. We have a Marsh, so we have about $80,000 in capital plan requests. Because once we got funded for the engineering backup, that dropped. So I just want to give that update. Any questions about it?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Negative.
All right.
Excuse
It would be good to see if we can do anything before the season starts. And I think that you all support that, right? The weeds at Town Beach. We want
To
to
be
see.
dealt with? Oh, sure.
So, hopefully, if we can get started before
Oh, yes.
the
yeah.
season, yeah. Because the thing about it, once I looked at the quote, was it was a two-phase thing. There is a chemical treatment, and that is also the after the chemical treatment. I forgot which one comes first. I think the chemical treatment comes first, and then the hydro raking comes second. And the hydro raking is the most expensive part. But if we are able to do the chemical treatment, that even if it just kills the weeds and is, easier we can use more of the water, would be great. All right, we are getting to the fun part now. All right, item number 10. Okay, Marshall Park IFB draft. Discuss how to create a draft. So I talked with Heather about that for the engineering, and her looking at what she and Julie have on their plates right now. If they were to create that IFB, she said it will probably be a 4-month window of time before they can fully get to it and get it done. She said if the commission is willing to help, it will probably be a 2 months process for us to get this out. And she did send me one, which I saved it on the folder, is the IFB for, I think, TCP work. Yeah, it's the TCP. So I don't know if this is something we want to take on to see if we can expedite the process.
I have no problem stepping up and helping with it. I just have no idea what I'm doing.
Right. I think it's really, a lot of the language is going to be similar to what it is on the TCP project. And I was actually able to find a couple other that are more specific to parks. Because the language is going to be, create this type of documentation. It doesn't matter if it's creating this documentation for a building or a park. I can take a crack at doing, maybe, what would be a good process, Karen? Do you have any suggestion?
I have none because I've never created one.
Okay.
The one that's
Chris?
in the, did anyone else try to open the one that's in the file? I'm just getting the front page.
Really? Oh, you gotta wait to load it a little.
Oh, all right. Well, it's just not doing anything.
I just double clicked on it and I have several pages. 37 pages.
Oh, there it goes. I closed it and went back in again.
Okay.
There we go. Yes, I kind of assume it's kind of a plug and play, sort of deal a little bit, right? I mean,
I think a lot of it is going to be very, is a bit of a plug and play, because qualifications will be the contractor qualifications. I think the biggest thing that's going to be maybe the most difference is going to be the scope of services and deliverables. That I think would be the biggest difference. But even then, like total project cost and the estimated and schedule, that's going to be the same. Pre-schematic plan and design development service, that's going to be a little different because we have done the design development services.
Yeah.
And I think Wola should be able to produce the pre-schematic paperwork for us. So
You
it's a
said,
little
you know,
bit of,
did she email you, by the way? Did she email you as well?
no, she didn't. She just emailed
Did you
you.
say okay, all right.
Yeah. So anyway, do we want to take on this? I think it's a little bit of a plug and play. I think it's a lot of plug and play. Yes.
My only I guess my question would, given we don't really know what we're doing, are we attempting to do something that's just gonna need to be changed by people that know what they're doing? And so
She-
we,
Yeah, I think I do think it's a lot. It's plug and play.
like the town description, obviously we can just grab like
Right.
like that, but we can have a, you know, the description of the project itself would be something new, which I guess we can craft.
Right.
I don't know
I
if like
would
the minimum
love to
requirements are standard. I assume that's fairly standard. And we have another one that we did, but you know, that we had selected Wola for. So I guess we can
Right.
do that as well.
I think the biggest difference is really just if there will be any anything on the deliverables. That's it.
I just, you know, we get the whole, like, if we're down on page 9, like when you get into like submission package stuff, you know, what needs to be listed there on the, you know, those
What page
topics
is
to be
that?
included columns and so forth. Page 9, it starts on page 9.
Okay, awesome.
I think it's page 9. 9. It's item number 6, so it's like submission package and, you know, a cover page and but then if you look at like tab B, it's, you know, there's some pretty specific things in there. You know, experience with building, you know, for this project it was building methods and LED certifications,
Right.
ADA municipal projects. Yeah, so there's some it appears there's some specifics in there that I, you know, and I suppose that's where they would step in and
Right.
assist us with that.
I think if we can, here's what I had thought. You know, I think the first pass would be kind of get what we have here and transform into Marshall Park relevant, where we'll apply. And maybe the second pass would be whoever takes that lead on doing that first draft could then send it to all the members individually, and the members can do individual work and reply to that lead person. Because that's not a, if you're just talking with one-to-one, it's not a, even if it's about the same subject. And then that lead person kind of, you know, puts all the comments back together. And that's how I envisioned that, us being able to help. So I don't know. I think that will be helpful, by the way, based on my conversation with Heather.
It's in the legal stuff at the end is pretty standard. I don't think that
Right.
gets in there. And yeah, the latter pages all seem to be pretty. legal stuff and liabilities and things like that.
Do you want to take a first crack on this, Chris?
I'm with what's on my plate, I'm a little hesitant to take a kind of initial. I can maybe take a piece of, take some of it if we divide it. Should we divide it up?
Well, I'm not sure how to divide up.
I just like we do like the description of the project section versus, well, I guess I don't know what else is there to.
Okay, how about this? Looking in number, well, I think we need one lead person to, even if it's to do that approach of dividing up. I think we need one lead person to divide it up. Maybe, and then divide it to the group, and then we can give feedback on like give it back to that lead person. Right now for me, I'm very busy at work, and I had hoped that I would have time to do the initial pass. I can probably in this case be a contributor right now, but I don't think I can be the lead. Nope. All right. So the timeline for the IFB, for getting the IFB out, is probably going to be for about 4 months. We're looking into probably, so probably looking into March of next
Let me see what I free up between the holiday. Like if I can free
Yeah.
up some time over the holidays, because that would be the only time probably
year. Okay.
I'd take a
okay.
crack. And then if I can get even some of it, kind of just
Okay. And I'll
out,
do the same.
send that to people. I know come January, it's not gonna excuse me, will be worse for me. in terms of
Oh,
free
really?
time, but I get two soccer teams I'll be coaching on Saturdays, and still basketball on Sundays.
Oh, well.
Practice 2 nights a week.
Indoor soccer. Where are you guys playing?
Westford.
Okay, the Mill. Okay.
Yeah, let me try and find some time between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay. And if I take a crack, I'll keep everybody posted too.
You know, did that on that.
Okay. Karen, do you have anything? You even muted yourself on this one. You're muted. You're muted.
I am muted. I certainly am. I guess I just don't have the confidence to run point on it. So where I've never done it before, I think I just create a mess.
Okay. All
We'll see if we
right.
create a mess. We'll try and put a little something together, and
Yeah.
if what we put together brings it to 3 months instead of 4, I get, I don't know.
That's no, and that's good actually, because
I don't,
the thing about it is that we are looking at, any delays that we have. Shaving to a month, 2 months helps us because we're talking budgets, right? The state budget. I don't know if you all recall, but Margaret Scarsdale, I had invited her and Andrew Shepard to come to a special town meeting, and Margaret did come. She's very aware of this project, and as of now, she's our elected state representative.
has that been decided now? I've been looking and haven't seen anything like
it. Yeah.
out there.
So it seems like it seems that she had won by 17 votes. Then it was down to 7, but then Dunstable said something that their recount, that they counted their test ballot. So we went back to 17 as far as I know. But Andrew was considering a legal challenge, so he's right. But anyway, so if we can say shave off a month, it's a good thing, because this earlier that we can get this done in the beginning of the year, the better will be for, everything, all the funding available funds there. Chris, I'll do the same if I can get it, if I can get something done.
Yeah, it'll be the time between the holidays that I can
Yeah,
find a little bit of time to maybe tackle some of this anyway.
Yeah.
See what
all right. Well, here comes the next to-do list for us is the Marshall Park grants, plan for completing applications. So right now there are 2 or 3 open. So Karen, this one is more down in your near. Do you want to take the lead on the water and land conservation trust? Because that's the big one.
That's not the park grant, right?
No, the park grant is last money and it's not open yet.
Yeah, I can. I have, this is how much experience I have writing grants, 0. But yeah, I can.
Well, I think in this case is it's more completing the form.
Okay.
It's going to be an application. And when it comes time to the writing part, I think once we get one piece of, like, we get the narrative of the project done, that's going to be the same for all the grants. And that one is the one that's open now and it's due by the end of January. And it's the big
Oh, dear.
one.
It's due by the end of January. Okay.
But there are a couple of things about that grant that I before you start applying and like working on the application is we probably should talk with them and ask them, what is the likelihood of us getting funded this time around based on where we are on the project? Because we don't have engineering done yet. What we have, it's not like, it's good, like we have all the right pieces, but until we get engineering done, I'm not sure if the project is ripe enough for that funding. So I think that's the first thing that we need to find out from them.
All right. Do we know who applied for that? Who did the legwork when we did the grant for that same grant for
Brandon Kibbe. However, that's a very different project because this is a construction project.
No, I know that, but I'm fully aware of that, but I'm wondering if there's any background that we have to provide that would be the same, like, is there town background? Instead of reinventing the wheels here, I could, maybe ask him, but I will,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, reach out to him.
Yeah, I can, I'll reach out to the grant folks and see, just see what they say.
Who are the grant folks?
So Land and Water Conservation Fund.
Oh,
grant.
okay. I think before you do anything, a call or an email to them.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, it's going to tell us if this is something we should move forward right now or not. Because the park grant, it's in the summer. Okay. The other ones that are open they're not as meaningful as that park, as that water. Like, we wouldn't be able to get anything done with the other grants without this one grant. Okay. All right. See, Chris, I got Karen to sign up for something. I wasn't just picking on you. And where's Dave? He's the one who keeps
I wasn't being
talking.
picked on.
Well, maybe that was my intention. And where's Dave? He owes me a grant or two. Okay, so.
Did I really just say yes to this? Like,
Yeah, you
just
did.
The
You did.
preliminary documents on this is like, I'm not even at the end of I'm scrolling and I'm not even at the end of it. It's like a 34-page document. Okay.
We can pair up on that. If you're the lead, I can help.
That's fine. I'll get it figured out.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's good.
Is
to work
that
with
in the full,
partners.
where was that document? Is that in the full? Not in
The
the-
34-page one,
Yeah, it's not. in the-
I just grabbed it off their site.
Yeah, but Chris has his own 34-page document to
Yeah,
work on that,
Yeah,
okay?
but most of the 34 pages is legal verbiage that I have no business doing anything.
Yeah. I love that we have like a Chris Sullivan window, but we don't see him.
I'm like a ghost. I'm like, what's going, like, I have there's a camera with a white light lit up on the top of my computer, on top of my laptop,
That's
and it's
funny.
not doing anything.
Is this from Parks and Recreation?
Parks and Rec, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
I couldn't, it's Ron Swanson's office.
Right.
Good libertarian that Ron Swanson is.
Now we know who you are. I always joke that I'm, what is her name? Amy Poehler's characters?
Leslie, nope.
Leslie Nope. I'm the Leslie Nope. Okay. All right. So Karen, keep us posted and I can probably help with some of that stuff. Okay, so let's talk ARPA. Moving on. See, we're on ready 12 and we are only an hour and 15 minutes in. This is good. So I talked with Heather in my meeting with Heather. I talked with her about the ARPA funds and how that can be used, because my question for her was, when the select board grants us all the $2 million that we ask for, and a lot of the grants that we have are reimbursement grants, right? So if we use the ARPA funds to do the initial building, so then that would be the matching funds for the grant. When we get the reimbursement, can that money be immediately reversed back to the construction? And the answer to that was no, because when the money comes back in, it comes back in and it becomes part of free cash. And it can be reallocated to the construction, but it's something that we would need to go to town meeting. So all the money that gets put back on that reimbursement. So the other question that I had, which she didn't have the answer yet, was if we use ARPA funds to build the park, and let's say we use that with the grant money, and then we get reimbursed for that grant, does that satisfy our ARPA requirement that the fund must be used until 2023? And she did not have the answer to that, which will be interesting, because if the money it's free and it goes back to free cash, but it doesn't satisfy the ARPA fund requirement, but yet now the select board doesn't have the control of that money, so it's contradictory. So we need to figure that out, because that would matter a lot how we apply that money onto the construction. Did that all make sense or no?
It did.
It did. Okay, Chris, are
I
you?
think so. I think
Okay.
so.
So then what I had envisioned was we get the $2 million and that can be sort of a revolving fund for Marshall, right? And it's not, because once if we get reimbursed, it goes to free cash. So that I was a little disappointed. So that's my only update about the ARPA funds. Do we have any questions on that?
So Anna, so it's a matching. When we apply for the grants, it's matching. Why couldn't we raise and appropriate whatever wouldn't be reimbursed by the grant through town funds, because then it would be reimbursed, and just use that portion of ARPA funds so that we're not having money returned to the general fund? Does that make sense?
It does. What you're saying is when we get when we get the okay, they will say, okay, we'll give you $1 million. I'm just gonna make round numbers. And that means we gotta have $2 million in free cash. Because you gotta fund the project in full. And let's say they say, we'll refund you 50%. That'll be $1 million. So what you're saying is, why then don't we use $1 million of ARPA and another $1 million of raise and appropriate from town meeting? Okay. That's an interesting approach, which it kind of falls into the next item on the agenda, which is Marshall Park funding strategies, because that's something I talked with her about it as well. So I think these 3 items here, they kind of like, it's 3, but it's kind of 1 at the same token, at the same time. I asked Heather, what does she think would be the best strategy if when we need money from the town, then we need to go to town meeting? What she sees in her experience as the best strategy on getting money from the town, on raising the appropriate. And she said that she believes it'll be easier and more straightforward if we only go to town meeting to ask for money once and not multiple times. And what the challenge on that is that the biggest challenge that we have is that the 2 large grants that we have, they are given to us in different times of the year. So we don't really have an easy way to plan on that, although conservation or open space, they were able to do that. Because when we bought Northfield Park, it was a special town meeting in November that appropriated those funds. So we run, anyway, those are all the things that we need to figure out, because we gotta have that strategy planned when we start applying for grants. If we're gonna go to town meeting twice, if we're gonna go to town meeting once, how are we gonna do that? And that's kind of a discussion item. There's no to do here. We just need to decide how.
The reality though is I completely get it. Yes, it's easier to go to town meeting once to request the funds. One and done is always the best, but the reality is we may not be able to do that. And I think we have to be okay with that. And I think that when we're doing our due diligence in this, to make sure that we're getting everything that we need to get in order to complete this park, if we have to go back twice, then we have to go back twice. I mean, it is what it is. I think that if you were, there's ways to justify it back to the residents and the people that are at town meeting. I mean, I think we have a good understanding of the people that go to a town meeting, what they expect, what they're looking for, the information that they're looking to provide. I think if we needed to go back twice, if we need to go back 3 times, it is what it is. If we're phasing this, if I would agree, if it was a one and done, if we were doing 100% of the park at one time, but the reality is we're not most likely going to be doing that. I think it would be great if we could, but if we can't do that, then I think that it would almost be expected by the residents of town that we have to come back more than once.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just my thought. I think the ARPA funds are extremely important to me. And when we say in my head, when we say that, $2 million in ARPA funds would benefit us, when I look at it, I say, yep, $2 million in ARPA funds would benefit us. $500,000 in this grant would benefit us. And it's a matching grant, but I wasn't looking at that to decrease our ARPA funds. I look at it as though it would be something on top of it.
Right. And that's the part, that's why we need to have a strategy and a plan as we start going into, applying for grants and requesting money from the town. And that's why we're having this conversation. Chris, what are your thoughts after all of these things that are up in the air?
I'm still a relative novice to to town meetings. and so forth. So I would default to Karen's note, but I can certainly see that, yeah, you know, I mean, to Karen's point, like going to town meeting more than once might be something that would have to happen, but
Right.
you know, the more I guess the more we have planned out, you know, and minimize that, the better off we are. But it's an ambitious, you know, an ambitious project we're undertaking, and you know, I think there's town support there, you know, but the more we can, you know, figure out to minimize the tax implications and that kind of deal, and streamline it for everybody,
Right.
the better off we are.
So, okay, so I think, Karen, what we do in the near future is really gonna be decided what that you hear about this, the water and land grant. Because if they say this project is too early for us to apply, like we need to have, you know, the engineering done. I think all the other ones can be dealt more at a later time, because that's the one that really is going to be used for a lot of construction. So if you let us know on that, and I think I agree that going to town meeting twice makes sense. And especially because I know it's 4 or 5 phases, but it's 2 phases that are the largest, right? So I think we get, I think us having a strategy for phase 1 and having a strategy for phase 2, I think it's how we're gonna get there. Okay. Okay, so we just gotta remember that no matter what, the ARPA funds needs to be used. And they need to be used, I think by 2026. But we're gonna have the engineering done. Once the engineering is done, we can spend that money with no problem, but it will be best if we know how to apply for grants once we do that, once we have the engineering. Okay. Any other thoughts about all these 3 items there?
Nope.
No, okay. So the plan will be, Karen tells us about the water grant. Once we know that, we'll know how to push forward with what to do with ARPA funds and what to do with the funding for at least the first phase. And we as a board, it sounds like we are comfortable going to town meeting twice, because that's how it's going to make it.
So can we circle back for a second to this grant application that's due on the 20-something of January? So when I start working on it and if I email them, which I will do tomorrow, and hopefully get a quick response, if they say that it's something that we should put an application in for, I'll just move ahead with the application and run it. I'll have you take a look at it before anything else. But depending on when we meet, do we want to approve this as a group to review it before we submit it? Does it have to go to town manager? Like, who has to also take a look at this?
So technically, the town manager is the one who needs to sign off on those things. So
for example, right now, when I look at this, there's 2 ways to apply for it. We can apply by mail, obviously, you know, that would just be mailed in, or we could apply online. So the application deadline for mail is Monday, January 23rd at 3 p.m. Submit an application via the online form, mail 1 original to the address below. So I don't like, we then would have to hand it over to her and tell her that it needs to be done. And like, I don't know how much notice we're going to be giving her, I guess is my my point.
I can, well, see what we need from her outside her signature. Because there might be other things that we need. And then we can go to her. She's very much on board on helping us.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure, it's going to be a time crunch, especially because somewhere in there I'm not here. So,
Are we going to Hawaii again, Karen?
no, I'm not going to Hawaii again. I'm
Oh.
going somewhere else, but not to Hawaii. So, I just want to make sure as I'm looking at a timeline that I have an understanding in my head of who needs to do what and how it needs to be done, because I don't want to I don't want to do all the work and then have anybody come back to me on the town side and say, we don't have enough time to do what you need to have done in order to get this in.
Okay, so why don't you look what we need from them
Yep.
outside her signature? But again, like the first thing is the call, are we in a place, then what we need from the town, and I'll work on that, and I can help you with this application. I just right now cannot be the lead.
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. And then we can ask her, can we have these things done? And she'll say yay or nay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The next item is field and user fees for 2023. So I did request from the town, from
The school.
the schools,
Oh.
information about their rates. I don't know if you guys got that. I'm gonna open up what I received. So what I wanted to know from the town, from the schools was I see what they charge online, but what do the people actually pay? Because sometimes that can be different because there's, different fees together. I kind of want to have an idea of, are we being fair? And part of the goal for it is, I think, ultimately for all the users in town, it would be best if all our fees are aligned to the best that we can, because that's the best way to ensure that, access to recreation in town is fair and equal to everyone. If we're giving a break to one group and not giving a break to another group, that's not fair. So that's one of the reasons to trying to align fees. Another reason is also to avoid competition within town. I think, we don't want to be competing with the school, because the schools might use the revenue from the fields for something, and we don't want to be undercutting them as a way to get their customers. So there is fairness on both sides.
So one thing I think we need to keep in mind on that, Anna, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but at the same time, I think
Disagree
that,
with you, but
well, it's not even a but, I guess it's just food for thought, and that's, the school doesn't need to rent their facilities. They just don't. The turf is one thing. I think there was an agreement made that they were going to bring in so much money, but at the end of the day, the school needs their fields regardless. In our situation, we're slightly different in that we are open to the public basically 24/7. I don't think there's none of our parks that completely gets closed down when there's a private event going on. So we have, members of the public using it as well. So we have to maintain the fields. And I guess the same way with the school, regardless, we have to maintain the fields. So I don't want to price us out either. I don't want to be raising the fees so much that user groups are like, we just can't do this, and it makes sense for them to go elsewhere.
right. But we only have one customer, and they have all the other customers. So I don't know if they're more expensive than us because their user fees is based on
They're what, 13, their grass fields are $13 an hour.
right.
And we charge by player.
We charge by
do,
player.
because the, and I mean, if they're able to pull it off with their user groups, I think that's great. I think as a, I think as a user group, when it came to, for us, one of the reasons we did the flat user fee is because they were able to then tack it on to their, seamlessly just tack it on to what they were charging and collect that $10 a head, or now I think it's $20 a head. But it was a little bit different when it comes to baseball, because soccer is a set time limit. So, you know that a U14 soccer game is going to run 90 minutes. You know that they need a half-hour warm up. So you're reserving the field for 2 hours. Whereas baseball, you don't have that same, there's no
Right, yeah,
time in baseball. So if they go in and if they're paying an hourly rate, if they go in thinking that they're only going to have to pay for 2 hours and the game lasts 3 hours, there's just so much fluctuation in that pricing that we weren't sure they were going to be able to cover it, because it's hard to add something in the budget for something like that when we don't know exactly how many hours they're using.
I mean, what they shared breaks down to about $15 a player for LISA, probably. You know, from the memo that they shared.
Right, so I'm gonna share my screen, just so if people watch this, they can see what. So this is the information I've received from LISA, from schools regarding LISA and Bengals. Well, let me go back a little bit here, because let's look at their fee schedule first. They do charge for miscellaneous things that we don't have. Custodian, AV support, that is audio visual. So like is that what it is, Karen? Or you don't know?
Must be.
I would think so.
Yeah. Concession stand and field monitor. They have a schedule on when people pay what. Now on their fees, it's based on hour, like we talked about it. But I did like, and this was on my plan to bring it to our, as a conversation. They have nonprofit youth organizations, and then they have nonprofit Lunenburg organizations. They're, I think just in general must be, maybe like, I don't know what it would be, kind of maybe
Game is more money than a practice.
Say again?
The game is more money than a practice for the same place.
The same field?
Yeah.
Grass field game.
Grass field game, grass field practice. It's usually more money for a
I
game.
think these are different fields, Chris.
Yeah, so let me look at it, Anna. I could answer that question. Where are we? Show me.
So
Yeah,
I think
so
he's
it's,
talking about this.
There's a practice field, Chris. It's tucked on the,
Oh, is it the one behind?
yeah. So when I read that, that's what I'm
That's the
reading it
field
as,
behind
because
Turkey Hill, maybe?
yeah, because the
Okay.
primary would be the school, would be the field at the primary.
Primary school.
The practice field doesn't never has any games on it, and then there's the actual game fields, which would
Game
be the
fields,
3 in the
yeah.
front.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So one thing I like about their fee schedule is really they differentiate between for-profit organizations and non-profit organizations. The non-profit organization, Lunenburg organizations, they are not youth. Somewhere here I read that you have to be 75%, at least So at least 75% of Lunenburg residents require Lunenburg participation requirement. I'm assuming that to be, I don't know what at least 75% Lunenburg participation means. To be honest,
I would assume it would mean that 75%
Residents of
of their
Lunenburg.
roster has to be Lunenburg.
right, but but let's say it's a non-sport activity. Someone who's using their auditorium, like,
75% of the participants in whatever they're doing would have to be from
right.
Lunenburg.
So anyway, yeah, and that, you know, we have a customer, a Parks customer, which is the Phillies, which I don't believe they're 75% Lunenburg residents on that. But I do believe that we should have a differentiation between nonprofit and for-profit organizations in our fee schedule. Because I think there's, and actually it's not a profit. What I actually think we should have is a differentiation between events that are open to the public and events that are private. So let's say let's say Walmart, they want to start running a employee softball league. And they, you know, if that event is not open to the public, I think the price should be higher. Even if it's a nonprofit, let's say another good example, let's making this up, but let's say the Lunenburg Lions decide to have a baseball game day with all their volunteers and their family. Even though it's a nonprofit organization, that event is not open to the public. And I think that should cost more, because the price that we charge is heavily subsidized by taxes in general. Like I have the cost of what it costs to maintain the fields, and it's nowhere near that we're collecting fees that covers everything. So the maintenance of our parks are being done by taxpayer money. And if an organization wants to use that field that is not open to the public, they should be paying more. For profit or non-profit, I don't think it matters. What are people's thoughts on that?
I think if someone's a Lunenburg resident, even if it's a private-ish function, that those Lunenburg residents are already paying taxes to go towards the maintenance and care and so forth of those fields. So I don't know that I'd support charging somebody more for a,
Well, you're
you know, for
taking,
your example of like the Lions want to do a baseball game. I don't know that I'd support charging them more because it's not open to everybody when they're actually, you know, here in town, do a significant amount of work for the town, and the people that would be participating are paying taxes towards that, towards the care and care and maintenance of
So-
those fields already. Your example of Walmart coming in and running a softball league, totally different story.
So I feel like you're sort of looking at two different things on it. You're looking at like the regular, like little league type stuff where they come in, they use the field, they, you know, they're not monopolizing the entire park, versus a group that's coming in and wants exclusive run of the park.
or the field. I mean, we're renting, in this case, we're, you know, and we're gonna run into this like with the pavilion at Park Marshall, right? Like it's, you know, that can become a very sought after location in town. So, you know, and by the way, the Lions is a great organization. They do wonderful. They were the first nonprofit from Lunenburg that I could think of. I just want to say that in public. It's not, I'm just using them as an example, but you know, there is the women's club. Now that I think about it, there's the women's club, there is the Turkey Hill Gardeners and so forth. But it's still, you know, I do see us as we better our parks, you know, having some locations to be more sought after than others, and having high traffic. And the thing is, Chris, is that when, you know, when you make it, you're taking the opportunity from the public, from the, you're making that non-public by giving exclusive use to a group. And that's the part that it doesn't feel, right to me. It
I
feels
don't think
like,
there's any difference between that and looking at the, I mean, take the same example and look at it with Little League, right? I mean, the fields are closed when Little League uses the fields.
but it's
And
a, but it's public. Anyone who is within the age group can sign up to participate.
I just think it's a slippery slope of, I mean, how like, but you're only able to participate if you sign up for Little League. So you're still limiting the use of the field. So, my son doesn't play baseball. So if he went to the ball field and said, I want to go hit a ball around, with some friends from his soccer team, the field's closed during certain periods of time. So it's excluding certain kids. And it's the same, I mean, it's kind of the same. It's the same thing, like whether he goes down to hit a ball with his friends from his soccer team when the Little League is on the field or when the Lunenburg Gardeners are on the field, it's still closed to a set group of people that aren't part of that group that's using the fields.
I hear that. I do see a difference between an organization that the membership is open and
So I actually have, I have one that we can use as an example, but give me a second, because we left a different subject before I was ready to, but, so I just want to jot down my note. All right, so let's actually use the Phillies, because they're a prime, I think they are actually sort of fitting your definition, Anna, because they're not open to everybody.
Right.
A resident in Lunenburg who just feels like playing that level of baseball can't just call up and be like, I'm ready to play. Yet, we consider them, actually, I don't know if we should really be considering them a Lunenburg-based nonprofit, because the majority of their players are actually not from Lunenburg. So when they're on the field, you want to charge them more because there's no public access to teams like that. It's the same thing though with, the same thing can happen with Little League. When you look at it, you have kids that are, they have to try out and they have to make certain teams. And if you have a kid that, age-wise wants to be playing in the majors and baseball says, sorry, you can't, and they decide not to play, I'm not sure I wouldn't at that point necessarily consider it fully open. It's not like people can just sign up and play in whatever division they want, that sort of thing. So
Right.
I think I might be siding with Chris on this one, more of like, I think,
What?
and we don't have a ton of it. I understand what you're saying. And I hear you on the whole, the pavilion part. And I think we will have some requests to use the pavilion for private events. But I think that's just I think we're gonna need to take a look at who they are and what type of organization they are and where they're coming from. That's just my.
I think we'll have, I mean, as this is a different topic of discussion, perhaps when we revamp Marshall and there's more there to offer and we're, renting pickleball courts and we're, like you said, the pavilion, and we're going to have
Right.
custodial, we're going to have custodial fees for a restroom, and we're going to have if we have a concession stand that's open, like I know from a Board of Health standpoint, as the other the schedule shows further up on your list there, I think I know there's a $50 per hour,
Right.
concession stand monitor. Like that person has to be there
Right.
to see what you're serving and how it's being served and things like that. Like I think that's a Board of Health thing. I just I'm leery right now to start charging different groups more than what we're doing. I mean, I know when we've talked about beach fees and so forth, we've always preached, accessibility and affordability for families and for people to utilize what's available in town. And
Right.
I would be, I guess cautious to start increasing any sort of.
I think sticking with, because we have very similar groups definitions of our groups are similar to this. I think sticking with those and not, we don't know if we're going to have issues down the road. And if we have issues, let's deal with them when they come versus trying to head off stuff that may not be an issue. I can tell you
Well,
personally,
you
Yeah.
know, so just a pause on that, like this type of thing, policies, today we're gonna decide on 2023 fees. We not this, we don't have a pickleball court now, we don't have rectangular fields now. But these type of things is things that you gotta start having the conversation so that you can think and like things sink in, and it takes time. So I do want to start the conversation. Like, I know we're not going to be making decisions on it, but I want to have this conversation because I want this to be out there. I want us to get feedback if people watch this meeting later on. And I want us to be thinking about it. Because renting fields is a business, like Game
Oh,
On, Fitchburg,
absolutely. Yeah.
and it will be very easy for like, and the Phillies is it's a perfect example. Like, are they considered a nonprofit? To have an organization that's nonprofit and they're renting their fields and renting the rectangular fields to play soccer every afternoon. So I do see those situations happening, and I do think that we need to find a way to address it, to just allow for accessibility of our residents. That's the goal. The goal is not to charge more people. The goal is to whatever is, as much as possible, that whatever is happening in our parks is accessible to all. That's the goal. And so
when I think of fees, and I've got a whole bunch of notes going here. The one that comes to mind that I don't think the commission fully thought through at the time was what we charge per player for, I think we consider them not-profit Lunenburg organizations such as the Phillies, because we actually, if we go by what we charge per hour, if we go by what we charge per player, they pay less than they've ever paid. So we went from, say, collecting $1,500 a year to that from them, and I'm not sure what they ended up paying this year. But like I don't want to use the word monopolize, but I mean, they're really the prime users, and there's no limit on their use of it. So they could, for that set price of however $25 or whatever it is that we charge them, they could have full run of the place. Like every night of the week if they wanted. I feel like we need to
They have to schedule, don't they? I mean, don't they have to give us a schedule? And that's what they have authorized use for?
Yeah, so even if, I don't know if what happened this past year, Chris, and obviously our former rec director is not here to confirm it, but it wouldn't make a difference anyway, because they could provide us with a schedule that says they want to use the field 7 nights a week for 2 hours a night. And their only charge on that would be $25
25
per season. That's using, I feel like we need to look at some of this maybe this is the case where we start charging by the hour so that they, we're getting the correct amount of money. But
I think it's going to be pretty similar. Well, I guess that's a small allotment, but I mean, if you look at the memo that Anna has, and you look at license fees of $5,400, I mean, I think there were 350 kids that played soccer this fall. So the cost of that is like $15 a kid
so,
for the season. Like for the, so
couple of notes on that though, Chris. So the largest population, like the largest grouping of kids they have is the younger groups, and the in-town groups. Those are pretty big. The numbers, they don't dwindle as they get older, but the teams are less. If I'm reading this correctly, when they rent the primary school field, they're renting that entire field for a couple of hundred kids. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like they're saying, okay, there's 3 fields out there. We're charging each one of those fields X number of dollars an hour. I think that they're charging, it's just that one fee for
Yeah,
that.
there's two different
entire
sessions
field.
there on a Saturday. There's two.
So
different
it's
groups of
hard to
kids that
break
go
it
through there.
down by what they're paying per player when there's different field formulations involved. But let me give you the example of what I just, what I was looking at while everybody was talking. So,
Do you want to share your screen? Do you need to
nope,
share? your screen?
because I don't really have anything to share. I have it scribbled
Oh.
down. And so I still, for whatever reason, when the Little League was putting their schedule onto their Google Calendar, it was still syncing with mine. So I went through and it just picked a random team, not picking on any team. And I picked the Lightning. The Lightning looks to be a minor league team playing over at McNally. I went through, this is just what's on their calendar. I have no idea if anything had to be canceled or rescheduled because of weather or anything like that. So they started their practices April 11th. They used the field a total of 22 times in that spring season. Of those 22 times, 4 of those games were playing other Lunenburg teams. So I trying to figure out what their per player amount would have been and sort of doing some rough math there. I split that in half. So I gave them credit for 2 home games against other Lunenburg teams, even though there was 4, and I gave them full credit for any game that they had at home that was against an out of town team and all their practices. So that they use the field 44 hours. If I do just 2 hours, I'm again, rough justice here. So that 22, that, I'm sorry, I gave them credit for 20 hours after I did some rough math with their opponents. So
Practice won't be
that's
for 2
40
hours.
hours. And if we were charging them by the hour, say $13 an hour, that comes out to be $520 that we would be charging that team to play on that field. I don't know what their numbers are for baseball right now. How many kids do you think are on a baseball team? Anybody have a good guess?
Probably
Well, you get
13
10,
to 15.
what do you get, 9 or 10 on
So if
the-
we do 15, that comes out to be $34.66 per player. That's more than doubling our rates. And part of this is because, you know,
No, it'll be 50% more. Oh,
well,
we're
what,
charging $20.
yeah, so 30.
Wait, didn't we raise the price to 25?
Are we 20 and 20? Are we 20 for in town and 25 for, oh no, I guess we're 20 and 30. No,
Okay, so this is
we're 20.
updated.
That is
we didn't-
updated.
Okay,
So, you know, that's what, I guess, what makes it hard when you're charging somebody by the hour. You know, what if they're booked for 40 hours of usage and 2 of their practice gets canceled because of weather? Who's keeping track of that? Who's keeping track of, you know, somebody on our side, if we have to close the field because we had a water main break, now we're not going to charge them by the hour. So you have to start, you know, doing all the little nitty gritty stuff to start deducting those fees. To me, I think the hourly fee is fine for in some instances. I guess I'm not sold on youth organizations paying an hourly fee. I would much rather be having them pay a flat fee per user, because I think it makes their accounting a little bit easier. And I think it definitely makes our accounting and tracking easier to know what they're paying. I do think there needs to be consideration for some of the other groups that want to rent by the hour, you know, such as the Phillies, or if we have an outside user group come in, it needs to be worth the while to be putting them out there on those fields. So, you know, I think you know, charging them by the hour makes sense versus by the player, because, you know, they're only out there one time. I don't know. I just, when I look at the hours of some of the groups, it's, I don't know exactly what the hours were that the Phillies used. I don't remember what their schedule is like. So I don't know. That's just it. My only other comment on this whole thing is, and I don't know if you asked them, Anna, when are they collecting registrations for the spring season?
Not yet.
They haven't opened it yet.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Yeah, it just, I hate throwing.
I'm not saying we're changing or increasing price. We're having conversations here.
Yeah, no, I know.
So the Phillies, for example, are they considered nonprofit?
I would assume so.
Okay. And that's, and so Karen, the other way to see it, this, in terms of registering, like renting by hour, is surely how many games can actually happen. You can think of it as per shift. Kind of like we do, we have our season description.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that there's no chance that, like, you can say early afternoon shift and late afternoon shifts. Because the most that anything can happen in terms of baseball is it's 2 games if you have like a high school that starts right at 3. And then after that you might get the most 2 games starting at, if you're starting at 3 or 1. So that's a way to kind of think of as actual usage of the field versus, per hour. But, you're right that all those little accounting, miscellaneous accounting, what happens if it's reserved or not, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not moving away from that. I'm just saying it's another option to do it. Do we know what is the enrollment for Bengals? Since Chris said that
Yeah.
Lysa was 300 kids. How many kids?
And Lysa
Chris?
may even be more than that.
I think Lysa's like 350 kids or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it was a lot of kids this fall. I forget what Baron's email had said. I don't know the enrollment for Bengals. It's interesting they didn't pay any electricity charges, even though they were under the lights. But,
Funny you mentioned that, Chris.
Say that again. They didn't pay
They
electricity charge?
had no electricity charges, but they were definitely under the light zone.
I said that to Anna last week. Or earlier this week, whenever we got this document.
Are
You know
they
there.
still playing?
No.
Bengals?
No, but
I
in the
mean,
fall, they were under the lights. And
yeah, I'd go to soccer practice on the lights and they were on the field before us. But here nor there, not my business.
the residents are
Oh,
business.
I'll let Lysa deal with that. I mean, I think, I am, being equitable and accessible. It's like you can define everything I do as regards to park. Those are my 3 guiding principles. And, and yes, I think I don't think it's fair to make it easier and cheaper for one group and not the other. It's just not fair. It's not okay. It's not right. And yeah, so I think we need to be consistent in order to deliver good, service for the town, and fair. Like, we're already taxed enough. So the other reason that I wanted to get this information from the schools was, I wanted to have an insight into, how are we overcharging a group? Because unfortunately for baseball, they can only do business with us. So I wanted to make sure our fees are not, excessive. But they seem to be aligned with more or less what Bengals are paying. I think our total collection for this year is going to be about $3,000. They definitely don't have.
Well, and just remember that when you do that math out, does it have the Bengals using the turf They pay a lot more to use the turf than they do the grass fields.
Right. Well, it doesn't matter, like, when I do the math, like, I'm doing the math based on, I would be curious for their enrollment, but are we making cost prohibitive for Little League to the business in Lunenburg?
I don't think we're doing,
And I
I,
don't, and the answer is, it's pretty aligned.
yes.
What I see is pretty aligned with what the schools are charging, even though that fee structure is different. Okay, so this is the fee structure for the schools. That's how they end up with this bill. And this is our fee structure. So the
So,
question is, do we want to change our fee structure
Yes.
to? Okay,
I'm gonna give you, I'm literally jotting and doing math at the same time. Again,
Okay.
rough justice here. We
you know,
charge,
rough justice sounds more like, like labor camp. Is that what you mean?
sometimes I feel like I'm in labor camp. All right, so let's look at adult organizations. We charge them $25 and $35. And here, again, my apologies to Joe Ruth, who's probably gonna hear this, and I'm probably gonna get messages going, why are you picking on me? I am not picking on them, just to be clear. They're just one of our most hours used user group. When I go on to their schedule, and they don't have anything that says what they have for, they don't have anything here that says where their practices are located, but I assume that, well, it does, I guess it's saying that they're at Marshall Park. Just practices alone, they have 22 practices between April and July at 2 hours a pop. That right there is equaling the number of hours that the Little League kids are out there, but they're not paying much more than what Little League is using to use that field, but they're using it for more hours because then you have to add in their games. And they had a total of 35 games, and I don't know how many of them, I didn't look to see how many of them were in Lunenburg. So I feel like we should do one of two things: either change our rate completely for the per hour usage, or change the rates completely and make adult organizations per hour. Or we need to say that adult organizations, or even youth organizations, I suppose, that use the field over a certain number of hours in a season, then pay a seasonal rate, which would be higher. A higher rate for their usage, or force them to pay an hourly rate. I just don't, if we're going to talk fair, I don't think it's fair that the Phillies, who a lot of those players are not from Lunenburg, were paying just a little bit more than what Lunenburg Little League was per player, but they were using the field double the amount of time.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair either.
I don't even know if I'm explaining myself correctly because I'm exhausted at this point.
Yeah, and we just hit the 2-hour mark, so just we know we have covered a
Yeah, I
lot.
know.
Yeah. And then we go back to being, like the thing of nonprofit, because I bet you they probably have themselves listed as nonprofit. And, and that's, it's a nonprofit for the state, for the, by the way, they can even take a salary, people that work for nonprofits, but it's not difficult to get that nonprofit status. It's very not difficult, and this is a hobby. Now, do they have the same, are they the Lunenburg Lions Club? No. Why should a hobby organization that's private and excludes the use of the field of other Lunenburg residents have the same fee structure as a Lunenburg Little League? So I don't think that's fair. And I will stick a little bit with the open to the public or not. Although I did hear what Chris said about it. It's a slippery slope. but the nonprofit is also a slippery slope, in my opinion, because, then it's very easy, it's not hard to get a nonprofit. So maybe there is a different designation. So do we have any recommendations for this? How do we want to tackle this?
I think I need to give it some clearer thought when I'm more
Less
with
tired?
it. Yeah, because so the way we used to do it with the Phillies was that we charged a seasonal rate. So we charged them a flat rate of say $1,500. And when we did that, it also, we said to them, and you don't pay anything additional if you make it into playoffs. It's just a set fee. I just think we need to figure out some of the smaller details. And I think as long as it's coming out similar to what other organizations in town are charging, even if we're not the exact match to it, I think we're still on the right track. I think that they just have they have a full-time accountant or finance person that we don't really have. And even when we get a rec director, are we going to want them spending more of their time on the nitty-gritty of the number of hours, or we just want to know when they're out there and we'll charge them a flat fee? In case of Little League, it's a per player fee. And I think we just need to look again at the adult organizations, and we probably need to look again at the maybe some of the tournament type stuff, I mean, maybe some better definitions.
Okay.
I don't know. Oops.
And I mean, and we have grass fields here. Like, what did we have in mind when we listed grass fields?
Where are we?
We mean the baseball fields, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So what's your proposal here, Karen?
My proposal is, let's wait on this. I think, I think I just need to give I would like to be able to put some more thought into it and sort of make a better recommendation
Okay.
at the next one, so that, a group coming in that has 44 hours of practice and roughly 36 hours of games, and they're double the usage of our youth groups, they're paying their fair share. I just need to figure out how to make that happen and what the wording can be to make that happen.
Okay.
Um,
I would like some differentiation between different types of user groups. Like, the school has profit and a nonprofit. I hear Chris on the, my thought, I'm gonna say, it was, is it open to the public or not? Because we are, but I do feel like we gotta be able to add something to this fee structure that reflects something of that nature.
There is, but like, this isn't the town beach though. Like, this is like the town beach, anybody and everybody can join. There's no, you don't have to
Right.
know how to
No,
swim.
well, but,
Whereas like baseball, you have to have an interest in it. So like,
All of the users of all of the users of the land that we have care and custody over, like all of the users that we have are some sort of specialized group that you would need to apply to, try out for, et cetera, et cetera. There isn't just an open
well, it's,
group that uses the land, uses the field.
well, I hear, I told you where my thinking were, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, just as with the school, okay, where they have theirs as nonprofit and for profit. That's differentiation. I think we need to start thinking of differentiating the groups in somehow, because I think that's it's
Well, I
some
think we-
differentiation.
we
Just to
have
go back to our other fee,
differentiation.
go back to our other fee schedule, go back to the other fee page there first.
This one,
So yeah, so we have like adult organizations, there's a $25 fee, so forth. There's a one-time usage fee of $50. I mean, so we have some differentiation, I think, in there. And I'm like, if I were to look at that form right now, in a profit of, a for-profit organization came in and wanted to use the fields, they would fall under the one-time usage non-resident fee. And maybe we need to add that on this form or what have you, but I mean, that's where I would lump them. That's where I'd put them.
Anna, can you
As
go
a,
back,
as a user kind of deal,
can you go back to the school fees for a second, please?
I'm
So-
fine with a profit-based sort of description.
Tell me where the Lunenburg Phillies would most likely fall under. Do you think they'd fall under the nonprofit Lunenburg organization or the non-Lunenburg nonprofit? Let's assume that they're just nonprofit. I don't know for sure, but
No, non-Lunenburg, nonprofit. There's two.
Okay.
I think they would fall on the third category
okay, so
because they would not qualify as a Lunenburg organization because I don't think they have 75%.
So this is saying that the game field for that group with the schools is $112.50 an hour. Right?
Right.
Hold on. My rough estimate is that they use the field approximately 80 hours. That's $9,000. If they went and rented, if the school had a baseball field and this group was going in there and they were paying by the hour, they'd be paying $9,000 to play on those
Yeah,
fields.
Right. I mean, and we are going to run into this sooner or later is the reality. I think.
So I think this is my suggestion. My suggestion is, I think the discussion was worthy. I think there was a lot of stuff that was pointed out and sort of thoughts everybody had. I think we should go back and each of us think about it a little bit further. If we have something specific we're looking for, I think we should write it up and basically present it. So how we can do this so that it's fair across the board. And I also think we should give consideration to moving forward, things like the school charges, they charge for storage because they use there's a storage shed on property. Now, I can't imagine right now charging any amount for storage in the majority of our fields because the roofs are leaking and they're just not in good condition where the schools are. But I do think we should give some consideration to starting to establish rates for rental of the any storage facility that we might have going up, because if McNally goes up and Little League wants to store some stuff there, we can probably do it at doing similar to what the school charges for equipment storage. Do we want to, we've never charged anything for concession stands. It does cost us money because we do have electric there. Do we want to start thinking about charging something for the rental of those concession stands? I think we should think about some of that so that at our next meeting, we can then have just some more streamlined thought on the whole thing.
Okay. And the thing, just like we're using, money to rebuild the Town Beach house there facility, these fees that we collect go back to exclusively to park related things. These fees that we collect do not go into the general fund. So it's not like we're collecting this money and then, the town is taking in for profit. We're turning around. I did, one interesting thing and sort of related to this and sort of not, I did do, I talked with a few people that are part or have been part of the Road and Bush Community Center in Westford. And And they have 2 or 3 buildings that they rent from the town in their community center, and the Parks and Rec department kind of operates out of their same building. And they do some work together, like out there, the before school and after school program is run by them. Like summer recreation programs, they do it. I think that the town still has a rec parks department, because there's other properties outside these three buildings that happen. But one thing that's interesting that I learned about it is that they are self-sufficient. They have a executive director, they have a CFO, they have full-time employees. They're the ones that put the farmers market together. So, and it's self-sufficient, and their budget, I think this year, because I look at their filings, was close to $2 million during COVID. I can go back before COVID. So, that there is ways to create recreational activities and make it so that it's self-sufficient. Nobody's getting rich from that works for Rondenbush, but they provide a huge service to the town there. And I think if we start thinking that way, we can develop programs and create a free structure that will get us there. So we just got to remember those things. Okay, Kim, one thing for the sake of Little League, I don't know when they're going to be, it doesn't sound like we want to change the Little League fees, right? I think
I
we're talking
wouldn't
about,
touch, I personally
No.
don't think we should
okay.
do anything with them right now.
I
Okay.
actually was just trying to register for a little, like, I just went to look and see if registration was open for them anyway. That was my other concern I was gonna mention, is if their registration's are. And it did allow me to log in. I didn't get to what the registration fee was and so forth, but it was allowing me to like register a child. So I mean, there is some sort of registration open on their website or through their registration portal, so.
Okay. But it doesn't sound like we are looking to change their fee structure. Okay. Okay. But we are going to look into other things. Okay, that sounds good. All right, so that is, okay. The other thing, I was talking with some residents from, actually talked with 2 residents that live in the Whalum area. And I was talking about the Town Beach. Well, the conversation started with part of the Parks Commission, blah blah, and they live on the Whalum area. And I asked them if they had been to the Town Beach, and they said no, because it's impossible to park there, and you can't really walk there. Now that is sidewalks into the Rotary, but once the Rotary happens, the sidewalk kind of goes along the lake towards Limster. And with the ARPA funds, I know there has been some requests to make the town more walkable. And I think, building sidewalks on that little stretch there, I think that would really help the community there in Whalum have more easier and safer access to the town beach. Do you have any thoughts on this? Do you
Yeah,
want to go down
you
that road or
are
no?
like you want to use some of the $2 million that we requested from ARPA?
No, I was gonna ask the select board and Heather if they could try to see if they can build sidewalks there. Because we are doing the complete street project, so there's money coming in for that. And I don't know if I don't think they all have been marked for this specific street or that specific street. So I think there's a chance. It's a small stretch. But is this a position that the commission wants to take, to say, hey, building sidewalks between the Rotary and Town Beach will make that area safer for residents and it will increase accessibility for the residents who live on Whalum to get to Town Beach?
If the town has funds coming in to take care of that, I would support that.
Okay, can we have a vote so I can tell Heather that we had a vote on this?
What do
I'll
you
make a
want?
motion to approve that, or to approach Heather.
Approach Heather and ask, okay, All right.
Hold on,
outstanding.
hold on. This is one thing I noticed in our minutes as I was tallying them up. We need a super clear motion so that it can go into our minutes as a
So
super clear motion.
I will make a motion for Anna to go to the town manager with park commission support if town funds are available to install sidewalks leading to town beach from the
Rotary.
from the Rotary.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Chris?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And an aye for myself. All right. All right. So we're getting towards the end here. Other business matters that may legally come before the board, not knowing at the time of the posting. I don't have anything.
The only question I had, Anna, was there any update on the TCP indoor soccer-ish?
Yes, it's
Deal.
live. So
Okay,
it's I launched it this weekend because I was waiting to get access to what I needed to get access. I've been in touch with Patrick. I have the equipment, the town already bought the equipment for him. And he owes to give me his Corey, and he has 2 assistant coaches that are going to be with him. And registrations are live, and we already have 8 people who registered. And now I'm going to start probably tomorrow, spend some time on just advertising that, because he said that he thought about having 20 kids, right? So
right.
it definitely can be a public, and he
Yeah,
had
yeah,
agreed
I
to
know
be public.
there
Yeah.
was a crew, whatever, so.
Yeah, so he has about 8 participants registered so far. Everything seems to be in place. Yeah, it has been very smooth, actually.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna post to Facebook, and I'm going to send an email about that as well. So
You
let's
decided
see.
what, 3 and 4, grade 3 and 4, is that the age we set?
Yeah.
Right? Is that what it, okay.
Yeah, H3 and grades 3 and 4. And yeah, and I tested the website. My rack is working, so, and I already have the medical form, so it's live. It's actually it's good.
Cool.
Makes
And
me wanna.
I'm the first one to have registered, so.
No,
I've
I
got a kid-
registered myself first.
Oh, you did?
I
So
did.
I'm the second for a child that
gonna
I
play?
no longer have, but that's okay.
Yeah, I don't think she's gonna play, but and and it has been such an easy process that it's in my notes to come January to see if we want to try to do something, any programs, because now that I have access to everything, we can get those things running, and it has been super smooth.
I
Like
think they're
getting
running
the
some
equipment.
volleyball in there, just so you're aware. I think there's a volleyball,
Yeah, I saw
adult
that.
volleyball, something or other
Yeah,
in there.
yeah, that seems
So is
to be
that equipment gonna
happening.
be out of the way for that group to
They
play?
know it's happening, so I would think they would be. Volleyball is not a big, doesn't need a lot of equipment. They usually have
Well,
the
the net will
post.
be on, I assume the volleyball nets will be on some sort of, like the poles for the volleyball nets will be on some sort of large base. Cause I don't think there's holes in the ground to put the,
Oh,
to
you don't
put
think
the-
there is?
I don't think there's holes in the ground to put the poles in for the nets. There might be, and I just didn't notice.
Yeah,
Usually you only in TCP to vote and it's everything covered, tables, and so forth. But,
right,
um,
yeah. Yeah, so when I made the request to the schools to have this, this information, it was interesting because I made the request to their business manager, but he brought to the school committee meeting. And it was interesting, the superintendent said that they didn't have an issue with giving us the information. And the superintendent said that she believes that this first request was likely just the starting of a conversation, because she sees it that I actually can play it. She sees that we need some clarity on some of the things that are happening in town. And I agree with her a lot. And I actually think this, it's not just the town side. I do believe that the school also needs to do a better job with that. But she did say that she did seem to think that she thinks the school needs to do a better job. And actually it's here, let me see. I'll play a YouTube video since I'm sharing my screen.
This is
Oh,
the
I don't know
first.
if you guys are gonna be able to hear. Can you
I
hear?
watched it live.
When I play, can you guys hear or no?
No,
No, okay, so never mind.
I don't think so. Yeah.
so wait,
But
we can-
anyway, yeah, so I thought it was interesting that the superintendent sees that we have a problem with not being clear to have access to some of the town facilities. And she sees that we should start talking about that.
I think she recognizes too the struggle for space in town, because I went over and met with her. She asked me to come over and I sat with her and the business manager, and we looked at the space outside of Kids Kingdom. Like they're just trying to, can they in a cost-effective manner, make that usable space for any sort of practices or any sort of, whatever for youth groups and so forth in town,
Mhm.
just to kind of help share the load and take some of the pressure off of the official school fields that are in, really tough shape right now.
Right.
The football really kind of beat up the grass fields again. They were back from the summer, and football really tore up the
Why football and not soccer? Does football take more, it's more aggressive on the grass?
more aggressive on the grass. You're more in one spot. There's a line of kids in cleats in one spot on the field, all
Mm.
pushing each other, so the cleats are digging into the
Okay,
grass, and those fields don't drain, so they're very wet. And
right.
I canceled a lot of practices this fall with soccer just when the fields were soaked. It wasn't even worth going out there.
How did this conversation with her came about, Chris?
She just
Like,
reached out
to you as a park commissioner? Or to you as
to
a
pick
parent?
pick my brain, because we had talked about between the soccer program in the fall and
Mhm.
stuff like that, I think.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, the first step to solving a problem is recognizing you have a problem, so it's good to hear that. Yeah, so we'll see. I'll be talking with Heather and see if we can streamline some of these things, because the other thing is, the rec director that hopefully we'll hire, that position, it's not a parks commission position, it's a rec direction, right? But yet in town, they're like, aside from the TCP on not having clarity on that, when you want to use the gazebo, you got to go through the town manager's office. And I did question Heather, and I appreciate her being willing to listen to all my questions. I said, the rec director is your employee, is not the town employees. Like, they should be managing that for you. Because not just, I think it would make their work easier, but I think it's logical for a resident to think, oh, if I need access to a park, I'm going to reach out to the rec and parks, the recreation and parks and recreation department, not the commission, but the department, right? And I think we need to, by making those things simpler and easier to understand, it makes it more accessible to our residents. Residents don't care who has the care and control of this building, that building or not. People care if they can use it, and it's easy to use. So I know, but it's good to know that the superintendent's thinking about that.
Do we have where are we at with the rec director scenario?
Say it again.
Where are we at with the rec director at this point?
What I heard, well, Heather said she's interviewing people.
I just, that can, that's something that, obviously needs to be expedited pretty quickly
Right.
because, I mean, come April, we're in the thick of Town Beach matters and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where we started last year with, someone coming in and trying to get used to how that all operates and get their feet wet. And
No,
so
he
forth. So
started,
that's
he started in the fall of the previous year. He started in September of 2020. Of 2021, yeah.
Oh, even more
But
so then, someone coming in the springtime.
yeah, I know,
Trying
I
to-
know,
Hey, here, by the way,
right. Well, I mean, we need
Here's
to
the
start
town beach.
advertising for the town for lifeguards. Usually we did that back in February.
that I think, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, there's some things that are coming up that,
Right,
usually. So,
right.
okay, cool.
Okay, any other board, I mean, I don't see any public in here, but any other board comment? And I'm gonna stop sharing.
I'm good.
Good.
I can keep
Karen-
talking if we want to keep going. My daughter's not done with the track meet yet, so I still got to pick her up at school when she comes home from a track meet.
Oh, wow. Karen's about, it looks like she might want to go to sleep or something.
There's
Um,
truth to that.
Truth to that, that's good. Yeah, but yeah, and no, I'm looking for, I think we're gonna, in another year or two, things for
Anna, can I make a
recreation
public
park.
comment?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so this doesn't need to be said, we all know this, but I will just put it out on public record that the town lost Jen Nass at the end of November, no, oh yeah, end of November, who was the lifeguard. She was a lifeguard at our town beach way back when she was in college, and then as I said last night at select board meeting, starting in 1987, she did 35 consecutive years as a lifeguard and then a beach director at our town beach. She was instrumental in our swimming lesson program. And actually, before I even came along, she did all of it by herself. She was never worried about being reimbursed for any of the stuff that she put in to make sure these kids got their Red Cross certification. She just did it because she had a love for these kids and teaching swimming lessons. So she's going to be greatly missed. I'm hoping as the next couple of years go by, we find a way to dedicate and memorialize and everything that she has done for the town. I know it was mentioned at the end of last night's select board meeting. It was brought up again that we had tried to recognize her retirement back in early December and early November. This is how tired I am. In early November, but it had to be pushed off because of some health issues she had. So obviously we never got a chance to do that for her in person. So one of the select board members did ask that we work together to try to figure out a way to memorialize all that she had done for the community. And I do know that when Anna and I were at the services last week, we did speak briefly with Lynn Major, who also had some ideas. So hopefully we can be bringing something back to the commission in the near future as to something to memorialize not just Jen. We lost 3 people at that town beach in the last 3 years. So it would be nice to, and I think Lynn was sort of feeling the same way, to be able to memorialize everybody. These are people that work together for every time when they were at the town beach, they were always together working. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we had that memorialized in our minutes.
yeah. Well, that's good. Thank you, Karen. Thank you for going there yesterday. Our select board meeting gets way more traffic than ours, so I appreciate.
Yeah,
that
and
you went
and like
there.
I said to them, and I don't know if you had caught this, Chris, but Heather Lemieux, town manager, had recognized her or mentioned something at the beginning of last week's meeting, but it didn't get picked up on the audio recording. So I have a feeling because it didn't get picked up on the audio recording, it may not be transcribed into the minutes either. So I did go yesterday and I used some of the notes that Anna had prepared for when we were hoping to recognize her at the select board meeting, I used some of those notes last night. So
Thank you.
I think I did her justice. I think I did. People were very appreciative that were there. And it was nice to, it was the group of people that were there last night are longtime residents of Lunenburg, and everybody knew her. Some of the people that were there actually had, worked with her or had her children as students. So it was nice. It was a nice group of people to, to be able to talk about her in front of. So anyway, all right. Do you have anything else? Because I
Alright.
would love to make a motion to adjourn.
No, I think that's it.
I'm
Chris,
making
do
a
you have
motion
anything
to,
else? Hold on, Chris, you good?
You can't see me shaking my head, but no. I
Okay,
don't have
all right.
I am making a motion to adjourn at 9:30.
Oh,
Oh,
next
no.
meeting.
Next meeting. Okay. I take that back. I
I'm
rescind. my
sorry.
motion.
See, you
it. Hasn't been
would,
seconded yet, so we're okay.
That is correct. It has not been.
okay. So that'd be January 18th?
Hold on.
When are you not in town, Karen?
I don't want to put that out on. I mean, that wouldn't be very cool.
Hey, when is your house vacant?
Yeah, exactly.
When can I go hang out and have a
We
party at your house?
didn't have that problem before because Ryan was still living at home when we were in Hawaii. So there was always somebody here, but now that he is not, I am home the 18th.
All right, so does that work for you, Chris?
The 18th looks okay.
Okay, all right, so January 18th, thank you. All right, we'll take that motion, Karen.
I will make a motion to adjourn at 9:39 p.m.
Second.
And roll call, Karen,
Bye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I for myself. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.